Welcome back to another award-winning episode here with Vestigial Voice. Today we're going to give this Astro A50 a custom epoxy paint job. Let's start by removing the 4 panels. Each is being held in place with a pair of T8 screws. Of note, the tips of each screw have been painted with Loctite, which will make removal a bit more challenging. A tucked wire runs along the headband, which can be carefully slid out. Now, prepping is one of the most important parts of this project, so we'll start by vacuuming off each piece. Next, let's paint liquid latex on any portions that we don't want to be exposed, as this will prevent epoxy from sticking. For additional protection, I chose to paint a second thin coat, paying close attention to both edges and screw holes. After about 30 minutes, it dries clear and will mask the anchor joints and the screw holes. Ambient temperature here is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, but epoxy tends to thrive in slightly higher temperatures. So let's warm things up with a space heater for about 15 minutes. This 2-part epoxy is composed of a resin, part A, and a hardener, part B. Pour equal parts of part B into part A and mix for a couple minutes. Every epoxy project is unique, so feel free to take your own creative liberties. I'm going to dye 1 cup with black. The second I'll use metallic white powder. And the third will be a Caribbean blue. And without mixing them all together, I'm going to pour them each into a clear base before spreading out. If you know how to butter bread, you could pretty much paint with epoxy. Now, this epoxy project is somewhat challenging in the fact that all the surfaces are curved, which tends to make the epoxy run. But you can actually use this to your artistic advantage. You'll notice that as time passes, the medium will firm up, and we really have to take advantage of this property. A heat gun will provide a beautiful rippling effect, which transforms man-made lines into much more organic looking ones. A pro tip, contrasting colors draw the eye toward a focal point, which enhances the piece's appeal. Pro tip number 2, don't overcomplicate the artwork with too many colors, otherwise it'll come off looking unplanned and childish. It's important to release trapped air from the epoxy. A few passes using a propane torch accomplishes this perfectly. Keep the flame far enough away so you don't scorch your epoxy. We we are getting some absolutely brilliant metallic marbling effects. Again, because of the curved surfaces, the epoxy layers lay extremely thin, so it's important to use at least one flood coat to ensure thorough coverage. These flood coats can be applied about 5 hours after the art coat, depending on your epoxy type, humidity, and curing temperature. Check it out, you can see a lot of bubbles that can be easily liberated with a couple torch passes. Positively stunning results. About 24 hours after the final flood coat, let's see how things look. It's really amazing how the art evolves as the epoxy cures. Now let's peel off that masking tape and liquid latex. This is also the time to remove those runoff drips. It's really quite beautiful. For reassembly, don't forget to tuck the headband wire back into its sheath before screwing everything back into place. I'm glad you guys stuck around because this is probably the most important part of the video. What would I do different if I did this project again? Number one, see how the top of the ear cup has scratches? I should have taped these off with either electrical tape or masking tape for protection. Number two, when removing epoxy from the edges, I simply tore it off using my fingers, but really a razor blade would have provided a much cleaner edge. Number three, despite plastic, some epoxy still got through. Now acetone is okay for removal on some surfaces, but will strip paints and stains. Oh shit. A silicone mat would have made cleanup a non-issue. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe as you see fit. And let me know if this has inspired you with any new ideas for your own projects. We'll see you next time.